Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to the show, y'all. Check this out, y'all. I got these two cousins, right? One of them's name's Terry, the other's name's Steven, right? Terry, he was in the game real tough, selling weed, though. Nothing major other than that. He just sold a lot of weed and in a lot of places, and a lot of people knew him, right? But Terry, he met this girl that he was really head over heels about, and she convinced him to walk away from the game. He had a lot of money. He had bought a lot of properties, done a lot of things like that. He really didn't need to be in the game anymore if his goal was to get in the game, get money, and get out of the game. And she convinced him that the best thing for him to do was to leave so that they could have a life together and go on and have kids and get married and all of that old kind of stuff, right? And he was fully committed to that. Now, he had this cousin named Steven. Now, Steven, one of those dudes, right, that he always wanted that limelight. He wanted to be a part of that, but he wasn't cut like that. Now, see, Terry was cut like that, but Terry, like I say, they didn't have a lot of money when he was growing up. He didn't want to live like that. He refused to live like that. And he was molded, I'm going to say it like that. He was molded in a way to where, the streets fit him to the extent that, they didn't run over him in the streets. But Steven was different. Both his parents at home, both they make money, they live in decent lives and all this and that. They wasn't like upper middle class, but they were solidly middle class and stuff like that. And Steven, he always looked at Terry and was fascinated with, how Terry was able to maneuver and things like that, and why people in school always liked him and stuff like that. And Steven couldn't get that type of attention. So he saw the difference between them two as being Terry was, known as the weed man, and Steven was just known as this middle class, entitled young dude that wanted to be a wannabe. You feel what I'm saying? He didn't like that. He didn't like that at all. So Steven, when he didn't even have to, was out there hustling, getting his money. Didn't even have to, because his parents made sure that he was straight. They had him lined up, as far as his college education when he graduated high school was intact. So he didn't have to worry about any of those things, right? But he didn't want to go to college. Now, he's in college at this point and he's doing his things, but he sees that as an opportunity to sell drugs to the other college students. Weed. I'm talking about weed here, okay? Now, Terry had laid it all down, going on with his life, and started to make friends in circles that you would be surprised that somebody that was a former dope boy would make. And one of his friends was this. She was friends of his soon-to-be wife, but her friend was the wife of a police officer. And this police officer, he knew about Terry's past, and he just hated the fact that his wife associated with them in that way. Even though Terry, listen to me now, Terry was done. But he still hated that connection. He looked at it as if, this was beneath him, this criminal, even though he had changed his life, was associating with his wife. He didn't like that. So check this out. Steven, like I say, he wants to be this pretender, hopefully, get in the streets and people start to look at him the way he wanted them to look at. But here's the thing about a lot of people like that. Let me explain this to y'all before I go on, right? See, Steven was the typical wannabe. Low self-esteem. Listen to me. Never really found his path, never really found his niche to where, he could make friends just because of who he is as opposed to who he thought they wanted him to be. You feel what I'm saying? So he pretended. And that's what a lot of people do. They pretend because they're not happy and comfortable with who they think they are. It's something going on with them. So they pretend and they put on these masks and become these other people. And then when they become these other people, the people that are attracted to them not because of who they are per se, but because of what they have for them, the weed or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Now, let me get back to the story. Now, with Steven, he's hustling. Now, this particular officer that I mentioned in the story, right, he works the area around the college campus where Stephen is making a name for himself, let's say. So one day, Stephen gets popped. And this officer, he gets popped by the college police. You know what I'm saying? They're not like the police that can take you to jail and all this and that. They catch you, they call the real police, so to speak, and then they come to get you, right? So he had gotten caught by this college police selling drugs to another college student. So they have both of them in the little jail on the prison. I mean, not the prison, but on the college campus, right? And so when they call the police comes there, and there was this officer that I was telling you about that has a friend that's friends with Terry's fiance. So he gets to the scene, and he recognizes Stephen. And he looks at Stephen and it's like he's shocked. He's like, Stephen is one of the good guys. You know what I'm saying? Comes from a solid family, college, did good in high school. So he's shocked that this is going on, right? So Stephen is explaining to the officer that this is a lie. I didn't do nothing and all this and that, right? But the college police, they have videotape. So they show the officer this videotape. And it's clear that Stephen was making a transaction with another college student. So the police officer pulled Stephen to the side and said, look here, let me tell you something. This is what we're going to do. He said, you don't have to go to jail today. He said, I can write this up one of two ways. I can write this up that you cooperated and helped me out, or I can write this up that you didn't cooperate. And if you don't cooperate, then that means I'm going to put cuffs on you and him, and I'm going to take both of you out of jail and charge you with distribution and charge him with possession. And that's going to ruin your college lives. And he starts to run down this whole list of all of these consequences that they're not ready for. But at the end of the day, Stephen, like I told you earlier, he's not cut from that type of cloth. And let me explain that, because I don't want people to misunderstand this and think that I'm saying that certain people, you know what I'm saying, are cut out to be criminals and certain people are not. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that you got certain people that can live. You put them in any situation and they can adapt, right? They can adjust. You got some people, and that don't make them criminals. That don't make them bad people. That makes them survivors. Okay. Now you got some people that makes them resilient. Put it like that. Now you got some people, even if it's in a bad way. Now you got some people like Stephen that certain situations come up, he can't handle it. He doesn't know what to do. He's not prepared. He's not prepared because he doesn't really understand what that lifestyle is like. And most people don't. You think you do, but you don't. You think you do, but you don't, because you see these movies and you see these people that you think you know in the streets, and you don't know what's really going on with them. You don't know what motivated them to end up in the streets. Everybody wants to talk about, people that are in the streets in a negative way, but you need to know the backstories. And that's what I try to do with my show. I try to tell you a little bit of the backstory of how these individuals got there. Now, Stephen, he's not cut that way. And I hope that makes a little sense. You know what I'm saying? A better sense of what I'm trying to say when I'm talking about people that are cut or not cut a certain way. So Stephen tells the officer, okay, what can I do? Now, don't forget, this officer knows Terry. And he knows that Stephen and Terry are related. He said, look, I know you're not doing this on your own. He said, Terry's probably putting you up to this. Now, Stephen is standing there looking at him. He's listening. And he knows daggone well that Terry doesn't have anything to do with this. But the officer is telling him, he's giving him an out. And his out is Terry. He said, you tell us what Terry's doing, and you walk away. Now, let me tell you something. People that are pretenders are also oftentimes jealous. Now, I'm sure you're saying, who would be jealous of a drug dealer? Who would be jealous of a criminal? It's not the criminal that they're jealous of. It's not the drug dealer aspect of it that they're jealous of. They're jealous of the attention. They're jealous of, this person is doing bad and I'm doing good, and people still like it. And it makes them jealous. It goes back to the story of Cain and Abel. You understand? Now, I don't want to mix that story with this story in the sense that, one person is a former drug dealer and one is not. I want you to understand the dynamics of human interaction here. A person can be jealous of another person for many, many, many reasons, and it will cause them to be envious of them. And then if it doesn't go, if it goes unchecked, it will cause them to want to do harm to another person that is not deserving of it. Because Terry doesn't know that Stephen feels this way about him. He sees Stephen as his cousin that he loves. And that's just what it is. He has no idea that Stephen is envious and jealous of him. He has no idea. So this officer is telling him, look, tell us what Terry's doing. We'll do our thing. You go free. Now, Stephen knows that Terry is done. He knows that Terry has fallen head over heels in love with his fiancee. He walked away from the game. Very few people ever do that. He's got some properties. He's got plenty of money put up. He never got arrested. Listen to me, y'all. Never got arrested. And on top of that, he is deeply into the church. Yeah. He wants to go on missionary trips and all of this type of stuff. He's really, really turned it around. I'm talking about really turned it around. Now, Stephen's jealousy and envy is getting the best of him while he's standing there listening to this officer. So the officer tells him, look, this is what the officer does. He's reading him. And he's reading him the wrong way, but he's reading him. They train him to do this right. He's reading Stephen as if Stephen knows what to do, but he's reluctant to do it. So he's going to give him a little help. He said, look, I'll tell you what. Think about it. He said, I'm going to give you 48 hours to think about this. And then I'm going to have to make a decision. I'm going to have to arrest y'all, or we're going to cooperate. One of the two with each other. So he lets them go. He lets them go. Now, Stephen has 2 days to figure out what he's going to do. So now he's going to a college that's in the area, so he can go back and forth home, okay? So he's going home these 2 days, and he sees Terry, and he's talking to him, but he's pretending nothing has happened. But Terry can tell something is off. He can tell something is off. So Stephen says to Terry, he says, man, if I needed your help, would you help me? And he said, sure, cuz I got you. What do you need? What kind of help do you need? He said, man, I got into a little trouble. He said, what kind of trouble are you in? He said, just dealing with some people that I had no business dealing with. And I got into a little trouble at school, and I don't want my parents to know that I'm in trouble and I might need you. So he tells Stephen, unknowingly, he said, if you need me, cuz, call me. And that's that on that. Now, Stephen manipulates that. He manipulates that. In his heart, he knows that Terry does not mean call him about any drugs. In his heart, he knows that Terry does not mean that he'll help him with anything illegal. He knows that. But he's got to do something to build himself up to that point to where he can betray Terry. So he calls the officer back. And he tells the officer after these 2 days, what do I need to do? And he said, meet me at the high school parking lot and I'll explain. Now, the high school parking lot after 5 o'clock is empty. So Stephen meets the officer in the high school parking lot. Now, this officer has another officer with him. It's a detective. And this detective is asking Stephen all of these questions like, how does Terry do what he do? What does he say? Who is his connection? Blah, blah, blah. He's running the list down. Stephen doesn't know any of that. He doesn't know any of that. So he's really no help. So the detective tells him, look, If you can't provide us with any information, there's only one way you can help us. We need you to set up a buy with Terry. So they explained to him what that means and what setting up a buy is all about and all this and that the conversation would be recorded, the phones, will be tapped and recorded and all of that kind of stuff, right? And Stephen is like, I don't know if I can do that. He said, all you got to do is just call him and tell him that you need to buy something from him, that you need a little help, and he'll bring it to you. It's your cousin, right? Stephen plays along and says, yeah, he'll bring it to me. He's not telling them that Terry is done. He's not telling them that. So that's why he's resistant and hesitant to want to call him, because if he calls him and he doesn't come through, then that means Stephen goes to jail, right? He's going to jail. So Stephen agrees to do it, even though he knows Terry's not doing anything. So he goes back by the house. Now, he's going to be doing this in a couple of days on the weekend, right? So he goes back by the house and he tells Terry, can you set me up with some weed? And Terry, look here, tells him, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He said, what, you trying to get something to smoke? I said, I'll get you something to smoke. He said, nah, I need something to buy. I need to take care of some business. I got some guys on my butt about some things. I need to be able to take care of some business. I'm in a little trouble, cuz. So he said, how much trouble are you in? How much do you need? He said, I need a couple of pounds at least. Now, this is back in the day when, the laws were a little tighter. Okay, this is not like now. You know what I'm saying? A couple of weeds now, a couple of pounds now ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, he says, cuz, I ain't trying to get back into that, man. I'm done with all of that. He said, I'll give you a number or something. You can call them. You know what I'm saying? And I'll call them and let them know that you're straight, but I'm not doing all that. He said, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to get it from you. I don't want to be dealing with nobody. I don't trust them. Playing on his cousin. So Terry, being the cousin that he is, wanting to look out for him, he said, man, let me check on a few things and I'll see what I can do to help you out, man. I'll see what I can do to help you out. So Terry makes a call. And of course, his old buddies are happy to hear from him and all this and that, but he tells them this is a one-time thing. I'm not trying to do anything, to get back in the game. He said, I'm just trying to help out somebody. So he tells them, man, look, I'm going to send him by to pick it up and all this and that, because Terry don't want anything to do with it. They tell him, okay, cool. He tells them who it is. It's my cousin and all this and that. Everything's straight. Everything's set. Stephen doesn't know that. So Stephen, on the day of the setup, he calls Terry on the phone and he says, hey, cuz, did you think about what I said? And Terry told him, yeah. He said, I did think about it, man. And he said, look, I'm not going to do that. I don't do that no more. Now, the police are listening. They hear that all the time when drug dealers say, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And they think it's just what they say when they're on the phone, when they're not sure. They think they might be getting set up and all that old kind of stuff. So they push past that. And they tell Stephen to keep talking, keep going. So he says, well, I really need you, cuz. I really need you to look out for me on this and that. And I told you what was going on with me, right? He was like, look, I made a phone call for you. I made a phone call. All you got to do is go through and get it, and then you'll be straight. And he told him again, he said, cuz, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to get it from nobody. I want to get it from you. I need to get it from you, because if I don't get it from you, I just don't feel comfortable. Now, Terry's getting suspicious. He's like, what does it matter? Whether you get it from me or you get it from them. I told you I'm not dealing with that. I'm not doing any of that. And the police are listening, and they keep telling Stephen, keep talking, keep talking. You got it. Because once he said he made a phone call, guess what, y'all? Terry's locked in now. He's locked in. It's a conspiracy. He has indicated that he is in it. Now, whether he uses the third party or not, y'all need to remember that. You need to remember that. Okay? If you're out, you be out. Don't play no games. Don't play no games. It don't matter who you're talking to, friend or foe. Don't play no games. But Terry loves his cousin. And Stephen is manipulating him, not being honest with him. So he tells me, he said, look, I'll go get it, and then you just come by the house and pick it up. He's like, no, I need you to meet me. Now, Stephen don't want to do it at the house because the police are going to be nearby, and the bus is going to go down immediately after the transaction. So he tells me, meet me in the grocery store parking lot. So Terry goes to get the 2 pounds of weed, meets Stephen in the grocery store parking lot. Stephen jumps in the truck. He jumps in the truck, grabs the weed, and when he grabs the weed, guess what? Police cars surround the truck. Terry looked at Stephen, and he said, what did you do? Stephen immediately said, I'm sorry, cuz. They told me it was me or you. Terry puts his head down on the steering wheel. The police all around the car, guns drawn, telling him to exit the vehicle. Get out of the truck. Stephen is terrified. Terry, even though he's pissed, he remains calm. He opens the door, steps out of the truck. They slam him to the ground. He looks over. They take Stephen with the 2 pounds of weed and walk him to the one of the cars. They set the bags on the back of the car, open them up. The officer looks at the arresting officer and said, we got him. We finally got him. They put the handcuffs on him, lift him up off the ground, and put him in the back of the police car. They drive away. While they're driving away, Terry looks back and he sees Stephen shaking hands with the detective. And then they let him leave. He turns back facing forward in the back seat of the police car. Now his mind is racing. What is my fiance going to think? What is my family going to think? What are the people in the church going to think? All of these people that had been behind Terry and hoping and praying for his change are going to be disappointed in him, he's thinking. He's tore up about it. He doesn't know what to do, what to think. All he knows now that he believes his world is over, that his life is over. He thinks he's going to lose his fiance. He thinks the people in the church are going to turn their backs on him. He thinks all that. He's looking at Stephen and thinking that Stephen has betrayed me. And when he gets to the jail, they book him in. He makes that phone call. You know, you get that phone call, y'all. And this is the hardest phone call that he's had to make. And when you make that phone call, you got to tell your people what's going on because you're looking for somebody to come to get you out, to bond you out. And that's what he's trying to do. But before that, he has to explain because that phone call, listen to me, this is how that phone call goes. You call on the phone and it says you have a collect call from, and then it'll say the facility, and then it'll say, you know, sometime it'll let you say your name or it records your name. You know what I mean? But it lets them know that this is a call from jail. So when Terry's fiance hears this, she panics. And then he comes on and he says, well, I'll tell you what, you have to come back and listen to the next episode to hear what he says, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.